In that moment, we find ourselves looking out across the gap in the room. The doorway to the bath ahead of us, ready and waiting. As we stand to our feet in our bathing suit, whatever kind you'd like to be wearing, gently and calmly making ourselves full and erect, taking a step forward, striding, making ourselves known to the floor as our towel warms in its specific device. We think about how that will feel when we get out. Step by step, the cold feeling of the floor beneath you, whatever kind of floor you're imagining. We think about how cold we are before the bath. The sensation of goosebumps running up our body. It's a sensation that longs and yearns and beckons forth the future warmth to come. And in this moment, as we begin reaching the doorway ahead of us, we take notice of what kind of door it is, the color, the texture, the materials, the smells even. We think about the handle, the doorknob. We think about what kind of thoughts we have of this kind of door. And as we reach forward, our hand stretching outwards, we touch the side of this doorknob. The material, whatever kind it is, touching us back as we embrace and fully encompass the globe of material in front of us. We stir our hand left to right, and the sensation of a door opening meets us. We find ourselves face to face with this gateway, this passage, branching our options, allowing us entrance, and the light of the gentle side panels, the glowing LEDs. As we watch these details in the room, as we see each of these tiny fractions of what we'll be seeing later on, of what we'll be staring at, we move forward, the staircase ahead of us, marbled and exquisite. The floor in this room, heated and warm. The fluctuation against the bottom of our feet, our toes. There's a palpable sensation, something different than pleasure, but something close, something similar. And it's invited. This lovely sensation that seems to reach out and grasp us from the floor. It's a kind thing. We feel it we appreciate and thank it for the moment that it comes. And as our body stirs and gently sways side to side, moving closer and closer to the path ahead of us, we feel our soul and spirit being lifted, step by step. The warm and gentle motions ahead of us. The embrace of a hot spring to look forward to. The smoke and the steam rising. The sizzle of water that's just lowered from its boiling point. We transcend the staircase completely. And we find ourselves at the foot of this long, measured, circular place. The glass ceiling above us points directly into the sky. And in the sky we can see rising ahead of us the full moon, waxing as it moves slowly in its orbit. The water cools, though we might almost wish it would stay hot. As water becomes air, lifting from its position, we see the small but lovely and delicate nature of this bath under the moonlight. The reflections shimmering on the walls against us. The translucent markings, white and silvery, lit more ferociously as the moon looms overhead. The water seems to change ever so slightly. Something special about the way it sits during this exact moment. We watch as the water cools further. We see the strides and the flowing, the lapping, the current of this small space. Gentle, non-violent, peaceful, almost completely still. Though the water can be seen, can almost be touched, it can nearly be felt from where we are now. We step forward once again, leaning over onto one knee. We place our hand just above the surface. The gentle rush of heat leaving felt on the bottom side of our hand. We want to reach out and touch it, but we know we must wait for a few more seconds. And so we do, against our better judgment. We relish the sensation of cold meeting warmth. And as we do this, We find ourselves watching closely for any discernible reason for us to make that final move, that plunge. And as we see the last, very kind, very greeting, very hot, now becoming lukewarm, we see that the hot tub has reached its perfect temperature. And as we stand back up, we place our foot forward, bending our back foot, our knees contracting as we test the water, putting our foot up against the surface. And finally, after so much waiting, breaking the surface with the bottom of our foot, our toes being encapsulated by water, the bottom of our feet being rushed by the heady sensation of such heat. It's ready. We almost pull back for a moment. I think a part of us sighs in pleasure, once again having felt something perhaps beyond our casual experiences. We hold ourselves steady, leaning forward, letting our foot fully become embraced as we let our water move up the sides of the leg, past the ankle, treasuring each moment. Over the top of our foot to under the knee, to the middle of the knee circumference, and finally into the knee completely. We lower ourselves faster now, having felt such a rush, such a surge. The microgels, the beads of soft, comforting, squishy liquid material. Each of them containing a micro LED. We finally touch the bottom as we push them aside with our foot. And in this moment, we lean forward again, putting pressure off of our back leg and our back foot, and onto our front foot and front leg. Resting as we lean inward, putting a hand on the surface behind us. Gently and delicately moving ourselves onto the surface of the water, creating ripples and waves, breaking it, and entering ourselves into its circumference. We find ourselves in a state of awe, almost in shock, feeling this incredible heat, this cleansing, this purgation rising up over our thighs, into our pelvis, into the bathing suit. Up to our hips. And as we rest our buttocks onto the gel beads, we find ourselves squishing against them. As we shift our legs out from under us, the feet moving forward, bouncing beads across the interior, until finally our belly button is submerged. The warmth, it's almost exhausting, the amount that seems to ripple throughout the body. All the soreness, all the work, the effort, everything put into this treasured moment, beginning to melt away as we lie further and further into this pool. We find ourselves swallowed almost completely as our pectorals begin to enter into the water's surface, until it's nothing more than a neck and a head that are straddling the water's edge. As our collarbone makes contact, as the rest of us, sublimely lit by the experience, enters deeper and deeper, becoming one with the water, the moon shining overhead, the silver slithers beaming into the water, the grime of the day being washed away, the serendipity of time well spent, the joys of the soothing nature of warm water, the sigh and slight gasp of pure enjoyment. This decadent event, soothing not only the body, but also the soul. As we find ourselves relaxing comfortably, taking it all in. There's nowhere else for us to be right now. We're right where we belong. Someplace calm inside the water. Someplace careful. Waiting and enjoying. Someplace refreshing. Being healed by the laps and ripples in the surface. Until finally we close our eyes, feeling the slumber of a hard day's work slipping through our body. We're right where we belong. We surf and coast on the edges of sleep, letting ourselves become so calm that anything is possible. And as we touch the other end of the moon pool, we find ourselves reaching the end, sleeping very calmly and gently. The stirrups that keep us from slipping too far, touched by the feet. The beads underneath us squishing together. And finally, as we close our eyes all the way, we slip ever more into our deepest, calmest, most joyful, and untamed relaxation.